Eventually something's going to break, and it's going to be clear that only experts know why it broke and know how to fix it, right? So, I mean, and there are certainly areas in our lives where there is no question that expertise is a thing, and no one's going to debate it. I mean, I always go back to the airplane example because it's so vivid. Everyone has this visceral experience of what it's like to be in a tube at 30,000 feet, and there's a pilot in the cockpit, and you want that person not to be self-taught on their home simulator. You want them to have gone through all the necessary regulations and have learned everything that they're supposed to have learned, and you don't want no one's an iconoclast with respect to their expectations for safety and regulatory oversight with respect to how planes function, and we want air traffic controllers who are not overworked and who have the right equipment, et cetera, et cetera. And there's just at 30,000 feet, there's basically no tolerance for idiosyncrasy and somebody blurting out that they've got a better idea about how to fly the plane, right? I mean, we want shit to work, and we want the most qualified people to have designed systems. I mean, more than relying on individual personalities who are going to get it right day after day. We want systems that again designed by experts and designed by and codified into institutions and institutional knowledge, such that we're not left making it up from scratch with each year, each generation. There's just a lot that is known about so much that we care about, and how to safeguard what we care about, and that is expertise in all its dimensions. And it gets enshrined in institutions, and there's no question that institutions can get corrupted. There's no question that they're faddish ideas that can be slow to be purged, and there are ideologies that can capture various institutions, and that certainly happened in recent years. And we've complained, I've complained about that a ton. And yet, the thing to notice at the end of the day is that the only real antidote to those failures of expertise when they're is the application of yet more expertise, right? I mean, so if RFK Jr. is right about something, let's say RFK Jr. is right that one of our vaccines is actually causing autism, right? There's no evidence that that's the case, but let's say he's just right about that. How do we figure that out, right? And how do we respond to it? How do we remediate it? How do we cease to make that error, right? How do we understand its pharmacology, right? It's going to be real scientists doing that work. It's not going to be, somebody's uncle with strong opinions about vaccines doing the work. It's real scientists. So you never can step outside the circle of expertise, even while criticizing institutions and failures of expertise. I mean, the answer to every scientific fraud or scientific error is not astrology, it's not religion, it's more science, better science, scientific integrity. And that's true with outside of science with any kind of expertise. I mean, what's the answer to journalistic fraud and journalistic error? Real journalism, real journalistic integrity, real standards of evidence. And so again, whenever these people are right about anything, coming from Podcastistan or Substackistan, just throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. When something really does stick, again, we need experts in the various domains to figure out what's real and to figure out what to change. And so that's not going away. And the question is, how much pain do we have to suffer in the meantime before we all get on the same page about this?
I mean, I've criticized these institutions. I've made something of a career out of it. I made a podcast out of it, and kind of doing it again. But I've always said the same thing: is that if there are problems in the institutions, you don't Nagasaki the institutions. You send a Gurkha in with his knife in his teeth, and he sneaks in and gets the guys that are bad, and then we replace them with the guys that are good, or different people. Like, every failure should not precipitate the end of an institution entirely, and that seems to be the kind of thinking that you see from most of these people. It's like, well, the institutions are bad, but we've seen this in the past. Remember The Best and the Brightest. That the reason that book was called The Best and the Brightest, the Dean Rusks of the world, all the guys that went to Harvard, got us into this quagmire of Vietnam. And what was the response from the more extreme people was, let's blow things up. Let's become domestic terrorists, et cetera. That didn't work, and it gave us the radicalism in universities that we still kind of live with today. Replacing one radicalism with a different one, it seems to me to be rather stupid and naive. But I hope.
Well, also the other thing to point out is that the failures we notice in the institutions, the failures of scientific objectivity or honesty, your journalistic objectivity or honesty, and there are many, and we again, you and I and many people left of center have complained about them and criticized them. They are failures by reference to the intellectual standards of the institutions themselves. And the crucial thing to point out is these are standards that many of these people right of center don't even have a pretense of adhering to themselves, right? So like, the Tucker Carlsons of the world are not abiding by the standards they're using to judge the journalistic failures of the New York Times or any real journalistic enterprise, right? Fox News is not holding itself to the standards that by which it would pillory even CNN, its close cousin, and it's this is asymmetric warfare on some level, and it's understandable, but we should just notice that this is. I mean, the thing I've been criticizing Joe Rogan for in the presence of someone like Daryl Cooper is a complete abdication of journalistic responsibility in the presence of just a fount of misinformation and consequential misinformation. He would criticize if there was even a semblance of such a thing happening in the New York Times. He and others would be right to criticize it because it would be a complete failure of the mandate of a real journalistic institution like the New York Times.
Yeah, well, if you see an interview with the Kamala Harris, when she didn't give many of them, and there was no pushback on particularly wild claims, you would hear about that from most of these people.